So what happens during the menstrual cycle? You can see down the bottom here, we've got 28 days, so a standard menstrual cycle is just under a month. At the top, you can see the follicular development, and we'll talk about that shortly. In the middle, you can see the hormone fluctuations and noticing just how big those fluctuations can be throughout the month. And then down the bottom, you've got the endometrium, which is the lining of the womb. And then also looking at those three different phases and separation there. So what happens during the follicular phase? This is when a follicle develops. So a follicle is a sac containing an egg. There is one that is selected every month to grow, generally from either side, from either ovary. These mature and they're released. In the early follicular stage, you can see that's menstruation, so the sloughing of the lining of the womb. In the middle of the follicular phase, you can see that slow rise in estrogen, so just the lining of the womb starting to develop. And in the later part of the follicular phase, one single dominant follicle is chosen that keeps developing. This starts releasing estrogen. The other follicles stop developing. Then moving on to the mid-cycle, this is when ovulation happens. So generally around day 14 of a 28-day cycle is when the egg is released from the ovary into the fallopian tube. Then the remaining cells start releasing progesterone. And then finally we move on to the luteal phase. So this is from the time of ovulation until the onset of the next menses. This is generally fairly constant at around 14 days. If you have any different lengths of cycles, that will usually happen in the follicular phase. If there is no pregnancy, so no embryo implants in the lining of the womb, then the estrogen and progesterone drop, which reduces the blood supply to the lining of the womb, that starts sloughing away, and that is the onset of the next cycle. So what are some common characteristics of a standard menstrual cycle? We know that generally it lasts around 28 days. It can vary between 24 and 38 days. And we can see a variation cycle to cycle between people of up to around 7 days sometimes. We do see more variation around the time of puberty, so under 18, and around the time of perimenopause as well. Generally, it'll last 2 to 7 days. Generally, with the flow is heavier in the first 2 days. In terms of the amount of flow, we consider up to 80 ml per cycle, so around 5 tablespoons to be normal. If there's anything more than that, then they should be encouraged to come and chat to medical. We'll also judge it on how often they're needing to change a pad or a tampon. So if they're soaking through one of those products every hour or two for the first, for 1 or more hours, then they should come and see medical if they're passing clots as well.